Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyah bid'uro. Welcome to the Ways of Israel. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero. This morning, as we continue delving into the work of Rabbi Joseph Albo in his Sefer Haikkarim. So welcome. And remember to be part of what we're doing. Join us on the Ways of Israel. Join us in being a supporter of our work throughout Latin America and abroad. And this way you can receive and partake of a lot of the blessings coming through this medium. And not only with health and also with prosperity, meeting your needs, but also many different ways, being partner with us to help other people with the knowledge of Torah. Of course, we're looking at this morning Albo, Sefer Haikkarim, and we're now in chapter 18. So let's go right to it, right to the meat of today's learning. As there are many laws called divine, says Rabbi Albo, and devotees of every one of them have a continuous tradition, the problem arises how to distinguish between a genuine divine law and a spurious, which claims and pretends to be divine law but is not divine law. The divinity of a law may be proved in two ways, says Rabbi Albo, from the law itself and from the lawgiver. So far as the law is concerned, we must examine it with reference to three principles mentioned above and the dogmas derived from them, as we have seen before. The laws in question is not opposed to any of the fundamental and derived principles. It is divine. If it is spurious, and its claim is a pretense. Viewing the matter from the side of the lawgiver, we must prove in a direct manner that the lawgiver received a prophetic message, and that he was sent by God to give mankind a law. A thing may be proved in two ways, directly or indirectly. A thing is proved either directly from its causes or essential properties. It is proved indirectly if the proof comes from accidents and not from the causes or essential properties of a thing. The following illustration will make the matter a little bit clearer. There are two apothecaries were charged by physicians which with the preparation of great theoreka, and said that one would make a good preparation that would protect from all poisons, warm and cold, and from all kinds of snake bite. He undertook to prove his premises or promise of exhibiting it to them the flesh of the viper and all the drugs which goes into composition of theoreka. He tested in their presence the properties and virtues and all the simple drugs, showing that there was no adulteration of any kind. Now there is no doubt that theoreka made in this manner is absolutely genuine, because of the apothecary gave a direct verification of the fact. Similarly, the apothecary undertook to prove the correctness of the preparation, of showing that it cures all cases of disease and poison which are treated by theoreka. This mode of proof would also be satisfactory because it makes use of the essential properties of the thing. To be sure, the proof is not good as the first, which proves the thing from its causes. Nevertheless, both are direct modes of proof, showing that the theoreka is well prepared and has no adulteration. The second apothecary also promised to make theoreka the wood counteract of all deadly poisons, and cited as proof of his ability that he would walk through the fire without burning or being burned, or walk on the water without sinking. Now, though he should do this in the presence of everybody, and that the great men and men of science, it is of no direct proof that the theoreka which he made or will make is good, for he walks through the fire without being burned, and the theoreka may not have the properties necessary to counteract deadly poison. For the proof is not direct, and there is no possibility, or there is a possibility, that the Riyatka may be adulterated. Same thing applies to the proof of genuineness of a prophet or divine messenger. The fact that the person claiming to be a prophet can walk on water or divide a river and walk through it, or walk through fire without being burned, or can cure the sick or the leper is evidence of the fact that he is worthy instrument of the performance of miracles. But it is not a direct proof that he is a prophet. Much less it is evident that he was chosen to give a law. For we find the instance of a miracle performed by incantation and magic, or by righteous men who are not prophets at all. We can see the story of the Baba Metzia concerning the dispute of Rabbi Eliezer, who caused a breadfruit tree to be uprooted from its place, and the water in a canal turned back its course, and other things besides. And yet others with whom he disputed refuted to make his opinion law, because those miracles did not stamp him as a prophet. By the way, this is a direct reference to the one who is referred to as Jesus Christ. So when you look at that, this is exactly what he's saying. His miracles, all of his works he done does not prove that he was a lawmaker, nor should we listen to him. And so we shall find that all the miracles which Moses performed before the revelation of Torah on Sinai merely proved that he was a worthy instrument for the performance of miracles, but not for the transmission of a law. This is all that the Israelites believed about him, and they followed his direction because they believed that God heard his prayer and granted his request. He did so in Marah, as we read. The Lord showed him a tree. Also the war of Amalek, on the account of Moses' prayer, God caused manna to descend and the sea to be divided, as we read, "Wherefore criest thou unto me?" This is the meaning expression of the narrative of the division of the Red Sea. And they believed in the Lord and in his servant Moses, and they believed that he was the servant of God, and that God performed miracles through him, and that he granted all of his requests. And we find in this case of the other good men too that God performed miracles through them, though they were not prophets at all. Thus it's told of Rabbi Pinchas, son of Yair, that he divided the waters of the river on 3 occasions. Miracles were also performed by Rabbi Hanina, son of Dosa, and Honi Hama'egel. The sun shone for Nicodemus, known in the Christian literature as Nicodemus, the son of Gorion. And Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were saved from the fiery furnace. Seeing therefore the miracles are not direct proof of prophecy, the people doubted whether Moses was a prophet, despite the miracles he performed, which were numerous and of a remarkable character in changing the laws of nature. It is only after the revelation on Sinai that the people said, "We have seen this day that God does speak with man, and he liveth." This shows that until the time that they were still in doubt about the reality of prophecy, though they believed that Moses was a servant of God and that the miracles were performed by him, as we read, and they believed in the Lord and his servant Moses. Keep in mind, they believed in Moses as God's servant, not that Moses was God. And this is the reason why at the time of revelation on Sinai, God said to Moses, "Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and may also believe thee forever." The meaning is, I desire to prove to them directly the reality of prophecy, and also that you were sent by me to give them the Torah, the laws, the doctrines of God, as it were. I will make them experience the prophetic spirits themselves. They too will experience this. Thus we conceive that the prophecy is a reality, and they will hear me speaking to you, indicating a desire to give them a law through you. This constituted a direct proof of prophecy and the authentic character of the messenger, and there could no longer be any doubt or at least suspicion of fraud after this sublime experience, for through it were verified the two element essentials to prove the reality of revelation. The reality of prophecy proved because there were all prophets at that time heard the voice of God speaking the 10 commandments or sayings, and the second element was proved that they heard the voice saying to Moses, "Go, say to them, return ye to your tents. But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments and statutes and the ordinance which thou shalt teach them, that they may do them in the land." In this they have a direct proof that Moses was a divine messenger, through whom they had a perpetual law that was to be given. Now the difference between a prophet and a messenger is this. The veracity of a prophet is proved either when he truly foretells the future in all particulars, there's the details, and when he performs miracles. If the prophecy is verified in this way, the Torah specifically commands us to obey the prophet no matter what he tells you to do, even if as a temporary measure he bids you to violate a law of the Torah, and as Elijah did on Mount Carmel, unless he bids us to worship idols. For since he has been tried many times, has been proven reliable, whether in the performance of a miracle or the unfailing foretelling the future, the presumption is that he is a prophet, and we are bidden to obey him, as we read in Samuel. And the Lord did let none of Samuel's words fall to the ground. And all of Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was established to be a prophet of the Lord. And in this case, in the case of an apothecary who prepared Theriata 3 times, it was found to be good. The presumption is in favor of his reliability until he's tried again, and Theriac is found to be adulterated. Similarly, if a prophet foretells the future or performs a miracle to substantiate his prophecy, he should be believed, so long as no untruth is discovered in what he says. The Bible tells us that when a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follows not, nor comes to pass, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. And it is possible that one may be a true prophet and yet on a particular occasion say an untruth on his own initiative, not by prophetic inspiration. For God is not a man that he should lie. An occurrence of this kind happened to Hananiah, the son of Azur, who was a true prophet, as the rabbis say in the treatise of Sanhedrin. But he made a mistake and spoke untruth when he took the bar from off Jeremiah's neck and broke it. He was punished for this. As we are told in Scripture, Jeremiah said to him, "The Lord has not sent thee, but thou makest this people to trust in a lie. Then again, this year shalt thou die, because thou hast spoken perversion against the Lord." And further we read, "So Hananiah the prophet died the same year in the 7th month." Understand that the death penalty of this sort came from God's hand. A messenger, however, except a person who is sent by God to communicate a law, cannot say an untruth. For one is not called a messenger unless his mission is verified directly. And when all the recipients are convinced of the reality of the prophecy, as was the case of Israel at times of the revelation of Sinai, or when a genuine character of the messenger is proved, or what Moses, or was that of Moses, not by foretelling the future or performance of miracles, for the test of foretelling the future is not a direct proof of the authentic character of the messenger as a lawgiver, as he may tell an untruth sometimes, as it happened to Hananiah the son of Azor, as we saw before. Similarly, the performance of a miracle is doubtful as a test, for something like them may be performed by someone from natural science or device. But if his mission is authenticated, as was that of Moses, falsehood cannot possibly enter, whether by his own choice or through someone else, not by his own choice, for God would not authenticate his mission in the manner aforementioned, or aforesaid, if it was likely to say an untruth later, not through someone else, because as long as his mission has been authenticated directly, there is no longer room for any kind of doubt. This is the meaning of the words of Maimonides in the book of Madah, in the 18th chapter of the treatise of the foundation of the Torah. The Israelites did not believe in Moses. He says because of the miracles he performed. For those who believe on the grounds of miracles still has a reservation in their minds that perhaps the miracles could be performed by sorcery or magic, or the grounds of their belief in Moses was the revelation of Mount Sinai, when with their own eyes they saw and their own ears heard the fire and the thunder and the lightning. Moses came near to the cloud, and the voice spoke to him, and the people heard, Moses, Moses, go to say to them, return ye to your tents. But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments and statutes and ordinances which thou shalt teach them. The experience at Sinai is the only real and indubitable proof of Moses' prophecy. It is shown in the words, Go, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that thou people may hear when I speak with thee, and may also believe thee forever. This shows hitherto their belief was not an enduring one, but one that is accompanied by doubt and reservation. So far, Maimonides is what he's referring to. Now his meaning is that the miracles which are performed by the prophets, like revivification of the corpse of Elisha and the cure of Naaman's leprosy, notice Abba says to revive the corpse of Elisha, the cure of Naaman's leprosy, the passing of Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah through the fiery furnace without being burned, and Daniel coming out of the lion's den unhurt, and Jonah's deliverance from the bowels of the fish. In all other miracles performed by all of the prophets, and all of the prognostication of the future, and all of the miracles performed by all the prophets, and all the prognostication of the future, all of these are not essential proof of prophecy. For one may foretell the future through astrologers and by means of familiar spirits. Same and some of the miracles would be performed for good and pious men who are not prophets, like Rabbi Hanina, son of Dorsa, Rabbi Pinhas, the son of Yair, and his associates. They might be performed by means of a natural device, as the rabbis say concerning Hezekiah, the king of Yehuda, and Achaz. His father caused him to go pass through the fire, and yet was saved because of his mother's anointed him with the oil of the salamander. And they might be performed by magic and sorcery, as the magicians of Egypt did, or by means of one of the sacred names of God. The divine names are like his instruments, having the virtue of performing miracles, and anyone who uses them with God's permission, like the prophets, or in God's honor, like the men of piety, is beloved in heaven and esteemed on earth. He does not die before his time, and does not fall in the hands of the enemies, as God said to Jeremiah, And they shall fight against thee, but they shall not prevail against thee. For I am with thee, says the Lord, to deliver thee. But he who uses them of his own accord, not for the honor of God, will be cut off prematurely. I'm going to into place here. There was a very well-known miracle worker who happened to be a woman who would have these incredible crusades throughout Los Angeles. I'm trying to remember her name, Catherine something or other. She was a faith healer, and unfortunately she was able to heal everybody of her disease, but died of a terrible sickness. How many of these faith healers do the same thing? Same thing that we can see in the case of Jesus. He was able to heal, deliver, but yet one of the aspects that we see that is a tall tale sign is that he prematurely died. He was cut off from the land of the living. We also will fall into the hands of his enemies. His ultimate end will be bad. As the rabbis say, he who uses the crown will perish. He is like a person who has stolen the king's ring and garment or seal for his own use, who deserves death. My friends, this is why I encourage people not to delve into practical Kabbalah. There's everybody teaching Kabbalah now. Everybody is a mystic. Everybody's a Kabbalist. Everybody's like a pseudo-prophet in our time, wanting everybody to learn the mystical letters and the powers behind that. And within our group, we discourage that wholeheartedly, because you're playing with fire. You're playing with a loaded gun, as it were. And so, as the rabbis say, he who pronounced a divine name is disappeared into a cedar tree. His punishment was that he was captured by the enemies and put to death. You wonder why? Why so much premature death taking place among our communities? Because they're teaching what's not supposed to be on the public arena. And no one is saying anything. Oh yes, you can learn Kabbalah. Oh yes, you can fly in the air. Oh yes, you can do all of these things. Yet that's not the reason for it. This is why the Kabbalists of old, on purpose, distorted and perverted their scripts. Yes, their scripts, their manuscript, so that the unlearned would be perverted and would stumble over their words. Did you know and did you realize till this day there are many works of the Kabbalists that were influenced by their perversion of the text, utilizing the ancient Gnostic and other heretical texts of first century Christianity? Think about that. So when you decide on your own, because they're teaching Kabbalah at the Kabbalah Center, and you think it's all pure, it's not, my friends. They have not been able to remove all of the uncleanliness or all of the impurity that those sages, those true Kabbalists, put into the text. And you're to tell me, oh no, we can now study it because we are in a generation that we must study it. This is worthy of notice because herein lies the test of one who uses the divine names without God's permission. He dies an unnatural death or prematurely cut off. One of the most famous rabbis who were basically removed off the face of the earth, and this is even stated by many people who were aware of what he was doing, was a rabbi named Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan. Someone the other day was quoting Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan and saying, "Oy vey, don't they know that they're getting into?" This is the guy that basically was known to have been prematurely cut off from the face of the earth for exposing Kabbalistic ideologies out there, and now someone else is repeating it because they're wanting to delve into that which they are not permitted to do. Then we have another guy from Spain who's a professor, and he's teaching his students and all of those who are attached by him, a guy named Albert, I won't even mention his last name, but he teaches the breathing mechanisms. You got to breathe in and breathe out and breathe in and breathe out. He's teaching this whole thing of the Mashiach's Kabbalah. You know, he's destroying people's lives. He's prematurely creating disaster among our people. The matter has caused perplexity to many who could not understand how it is so bad men can perform miracles by means of divine names. And since we are told by the ancient authorities, the prophets, they made use of them, as indicated by the allusion of these three verses in Exodus, beginning respectively with the words, "And the angel of God removed, and it came, and Moses stretched out," and the explanation that everything depends upon the end. It is thus clear that a miracle is no real proof of prophecy, not to speak of authenticity of the messenger. Therefore, the miracles which Moses performed before the Sinaitic revelation were not evidence that he was a prophet, much less that he was sent to communicate a law. This was proven first when the people stood at Mount Sinai and they all saw and heard. This indication made it very clear to the people that Moses was the communicator, the prophet that God had in fact sent. And thus their infamous words confessing that they believed in the Lord and in Moses their servant. Authenticity was arrived at that point, my friends. Many of these Kabbalists that you see predicting, many of these Hasidic masters that begin predicting the dates of the coming of Mashiach and fail, are exactly what Rabbi Albo is mentioning here. Have your feet well established on the earth and stop flying on the highest heights of Kabbalah and mystical esotericism, which is in fact rooted in a different source and not necessarily godly. Keep this in mind. This is why what Albo is saying is so practical in today's Jewish world. Come down. That doesn't prove that Jesus is the Messiah just because he did miracles and he raised the dead and because he did all of these things. That does not validate him one iota any more than you can say Moses when he did all of the miracles as well. What validates the messenger is the experience that all of Israel had at Sinai. Now, if you were to say to me, well, you know, Jesus basically revealed the laws of Moses and a new law, and everybody saw it and everybody accepted it. All the Jewish people said, you know, we believe in the Lord and in JC as his communicator. Then I say, you know what? Okay. And even at that point, it took the entire Jewish people to believe that Moses was God's servant. Till then, they were still within their realm of putting it into doubt. How much more so someone who didn't even do half of what the Messiah is supposed to do? And I think this is the point where Rabbi Albo is trying to communicate without having his life threatened by the people he was talking to, which happened to be a lot of the court of the Inquisition who knew the Hebrew and what he was saying. And this shook up the entire Inquisition courts which he was speaking to. So to speak of authenticity of the messenger himself, he was authenticated by God himself as God revealed himself to all Kalal Israel. That is the reason why to this day we call him Moshe our Rabbeinu, Moshe our teacher, Moshe our the servant of God, because he was completely more humble than any other man. You don't find that in other potential messiahs that we have encountered. There was always a lot of chutzpahdik, esh, and a lot of arrogance into their declarations. And this is why Albo does this unique work in revealing the fundamentals of Judaism, which basically excludes that type of mindset, the mindset of believing miracles and so forth. We don't believe in miracles. We don't rely on miracles. We don't even rely if someone raises someone from the dead. It doesn't make them a true messenger. So stay tuned. We're going to go into what makes a true messenger in chapter 19, and that belief in a thing, a firm conception of a thing in the mind, so it cannot be in any way imagined its opposite. It has to be in that level where you're certainly convinced that in fact this messenger is of God, from God. God himself makes it very clearly known that this is my guy. That wasn't the case with all of the failed messiahs that we have experienced in our history. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Continue with me in the series of Sefer Haikkarim, Sefer of the principles, Sefer of the foundations of Judaism. Shabbat Shalom, and have a wonderful week. And remember, be part of the ways of Israel. Be part of what we're doing here to illuminate your life with the sages and the words of Torah. Shalom.